Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 FPS. My name is Mira, and I will be playing Sammy Jax this evening. With me today is my wonderful, darling friend.
Hi, it's me, Cayde, also known as Teeth in the server.
All right, Cayde, you have a new player, well, not new player, but like a new character. Do you mind giving us a little introduction to her, to Fawn?
uh, yeah. Fawn's name is Florence, and Florence is a little Frankenelli tune that looks kind of like an anthropomorphic deer. Um, Fawn usually wears a really flowy skirt and stuff, and Fawn always has like some sort of flowers or at least petals in their hair. In Fawn's hair, it's so hard to use neopronouns, but I like neopronouns a lot.
You are so valid, and I will be doing my best to use them like you are.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not used to saying them out loud,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's, something I'm trying to get used to.
Yeah, which is completely valid, and we're gonna do our best together. All right, so Florence, you are new to Toontown, isn't that right?
Yeah, Florence actually used to live in a forest outside of Inkwell, but something happened and Fawn needed a new place to stay, so Fawn traveled and ended up in Inkwell and Fawn thought that Fawn could handle a city, but Fawn was very wrong. It's very loud and crowded and not at all the calm of the forest that Fawn was used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, poor Fawn. So Florence, I want you to roll me a perception check.
Alright, give me just a second. Oh, what's my perception? There's okay. I'm gonna move stuff around. My desk is so crowded.
You are so valid.
Okay. Oh no, that's a
Oh.
nat one!
Yeah, honey, I'm so sorry. That was a nat one. Everything is so different and loud, and you're frankly overwhelmed by like all of the new smells and sights and just how many people are around. You take a moment and you just kind of like are like, whoa, okay, um, this is completely overwhelming, and it takes a moment for you to register that your feet have taken you to a place where there are no people. It is completely and utterly silent. And as you look around, this place looks desolate.
Okay, so Florence is a little off put by this because Fawn has only ever thought that cities were crowded and this place is really empty for a city. What did something bad happen here? Um,
And as you kind of like are just looking around, you kind of get this like feeling that this is a place that Toontown had for the longest time has been trying to almost forget. There's something here that it's kind of been eroded by time, and as you look around, you notice up ahead there is a park surrounded by a very, very old gate that looks like once upon a time it had been painted a very pretty cheery white, but the paint on the fence is starting to peel, and many of the slats are starting to lean sideways. And but as you look at it, there are trees slowly flowing in the wind that is just slightly there. It's more of a breeze than a wind, and it looks really peaceful. It looks lively. It looks like nature, which you haven't really seen a lot of nature in Toontown outside of the trees that are here and there planted in the sidewalk that you really think aren't actually very healthy for the trees. Where do the roots go? That's all surrounded by concrete.
The sight of greenery is really a sight for sore eyes for Florence. Florence immediately is heading over there, like just a break from all the concrete and stone of the city and the huge buildings towering over them.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you roll me another perception check real quick, since you're going to be heading into a new area.
All right.
Okay,
21.
21. Dirty 21. You see a lot. Florence, as you walk into this dilapidated park, you see some old playground equipment that's been rusted away, but your eyes are immediately taken to by the large grove of trees near the back of this park, where you hear faintly the sound of a bubbling fountain. And as you're looking around, you notice a figure who is kneeling on the ground, tending to some flowers that are surrounding the entrance of what looks like a little clearing inside the grove of trees, where you can hear the bubbling brook. And he's wearing long gray robes with rainbow edging on the edges, and he has his back to you as he's working.
Florence is a little bit cautious. Fawn's petals, the petals in Fawn's hair, which have been sort of let me see. They've been sort of like brown and kind of sickly looking. They start to brighten up a little bit now that Fawn's in a kind of forested area.
Mm-hmm.
And they turn into surprise lilies and Bethany. And then to I can't remember what it's called.
Gently
I
pass.
can't find it in my document. Oh well. But Fawn slowly approaches the figure and says, "Hello."
He jumps and he looks up at you, and he's wearing a dark gray mask, and he blinks and is like, "Oh, hi. Uh, are you lost? Not a lot of people come around here. Hi." And he kind of just dusts his hands off that were covered in soil, and you can see that he was planting some rainbow flowers in what looks like to be some of the flower beds surrounding the forested area.
So, as soon as Fawn notices the flowers, Fawn's eyes light up, and Fawn's own flowers turn to stuff like delphinium and more betony and even some where is it? I'm still getting used to the freaking. I have a document with like
flowers and their meanings.
20, 20 or more flowers
You
that
are
I've
so
picked out.
valid. You're so valid.
Yeah.
Me when I really started describing Sammy's shading.
Yeah. um, Magnolia, Delphinium, and Celandine, uh,
Hmm.
in Fawn's hair. And Fawn kind of forgets that Sammy's there. Fawn rushes over to the flowers and is like, "What? What are these? I haven't seen this breed of plant before. Like, what is it? Some type of lily? Maybe. I've never seen these before. These are beautiful."
Uh, Sammy's shading kind of goes like, the figure shading, well, he's not a figure anymore. The Toon's shading kind of goes, sky blue for a moment before it shifts to, more yellow. And, like, he kind of blinks at Fawn and is just like, I'm not entirely sure what they're called. I would have to ask. I'm sure Prismatone would know, but these flowers tend to grow a lot in the shrines around here. I've found. I've been calling them just rainbow flowers because I don't really know what type they are, but yeah, they they're they're really pretty. I'm Sammy,
Um,
by the way. Who are you? Like, what's your name?
Fawn looks up at him and says, I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. Can you repeat that? I'm
Oh, uh, and then he raises his hands and he signs out the words, "Hello, my name is," and then finger spells his name, Sammy, and then he signs, "And you?"
Florence kind of lights up this at the sign language and um starts to move Fawn's hands as well. And Fawn says it as they sign, but Fawn says, "My name is Florence, Florence." And Fawn actually signs. "I haven't met many people who can sign. Where did you learn it?"
Sammy raises his hands again and he signs, "My mom." Prisa. One sec, I have to actually spell Prismatone's name out. Prismaton. Prismatone. And yeah, he looks really happy to say that that he has learned sign from his mother.
um, Fawn seems to absolutely glow, just beaming at this. And Fawn says, "Your mother must be wonderful."
uh, Sammy raises his hands again and it's just like, "Yeah, she is. She doesn't talk, so sometimes well she when she let me call her mom, she started teaching me how to sign."
Well, it's really nice to meet you, Sammy. I'm glad I've it's been really overwhelming since I came to the city.
Sammy raises his hands again and he like tilts his head and is just like, "Are you new to Toontown?" And he finger spells Toontown out loud. Well, not out loud, but like with his hands.
uh, Fawn kind of looks a little bit embarrassed and says, "Ah, so that's what it's called. I'm not from around here, I suppose you could say."
Sammy nods, and also I should mention, as soon as he started signing, he actually took off his mask because facial features are extremely important in sign.
Yes. Um, Fawn says, so this may sound a little bit silly, but I and Fawn laughs a little bit at herself, and then Fawn takes a deep breath and says, so I barely know this place at all. I've ne- never seen someone like me before. You are, you're not real. No, no, we're,
Toon?
yes, I guess.
Where did you live outside of Einquell? And he's sign. Like, I'm just gonna say, like here on out, he's like signing when he's talking
Yeah,
to Fawn, just because. Yeah.
yeah. um, and Fawn nods. Fawn says, yes, I'm not from around here at all.
Sammy nods and he's uh Florence, why don't you roll insight?
All right. What's my insight? There it is. My answer. It's actually really good.
Whoo, dirty 20. Holy crap.
Yep.
Okay. um well, with that dirty 20, Florence, you realize that Sammy knows exactly what you're talking about because he's even though he's kind of half grown up with tunes and surrounded by tunes, for a lot of his life, like for a lot of his huge memories that he has, he was surrounded by real kind. And his shading is a little, it's like a slight bright, it's a light lilac as he's looking at you, Florence, and you realize that he's a little concerned. He raises his hands and he signs. Were they good to you? The real kind surrounding you.
Florence says, I never saw them.
And Sammy's
He
shading
then
turns a little gray because, huh?
Florence Florence backtracks a little bit and says, well, I did see them at a distance, but I never got close.
Sammy kind of nods in understanding, and his eyes crink. Well, no, he smiles at you, Florence, and he's just like, well, you're here now, and there's a lot more of us here. There are still real kind here, but for the most part, they're a lot nicer than outside.
Florence, Florence kind of chuckles and says, I hope so. I didn't. The ones I saw kind of scared me.
Sammy kind of like he reaches over and clearly shows that he's reaching over and gently kind of just pats Fawn on the arm, just like, yeah, he gets it. Real kind can be scary. They can be scary. And he kind of tilts his head a bit and is just like, if you don't mind me asking, what brings you to Toontown?
Florence, Florence's flowers turn to pansies and then slowly turn to um Asclepias and cypress, and Florence kind of grimaces and says, I don't really think I should talk about it
Sammy
now.
nods and he's just like, You don't have to say if you don't want to.
Um, Florence nods a little bit and says, I just need a new place to stay. I thought I could handle a city. I'd seen them sometimes before, um, at the edge of my forest, but when I came here, it is a lot.
Sammy nods because, oh wow, coming from like a forest to a city like Toontown? Oof, like he kind of like winces and ow. Oh, I understand that now. Oof, ouch, he understands. And like he kind of like thinks like he's like he kind of like visibly like starts thinking like there's a little thought bubble that pops up into his head as he like over his head as he kind of like tries to like mull over how can I help this tune that I've met. And it the thought bubble kind of remains empty as he thinks and thinks and thinks because he doesn't really have room in Barkson's apartment to invite another person to live. Um, hmm.
I wanna say that while the thought bubble is there, Florence is staring at it and a lot of confusion. Florence has never seen something like that before.
Oh, hold Florence soft. Uh, and he like kind of just like shakes his head for a moment and like waves the thought bubble away from his head because that's not helping. And he kind of looks around and I'm just gonna roll him a perception. Okay, 17. As he like looks around, he spots kind of nestled in amongst the forest. There is a small little gardener's hut for this area, and his like eyes kind of light up, and a light bulb lights over his head, and he's just like point. He points, and he's just like, I don't think anyone would mind if you stayed there for a bit.
Florence, Florence is staring at the light bulb now and kind of points at it.
Sammy, blink, blink, looks up over his head where the light bulb is hanging, grabs it, and it's just like, yeah, it happens. A lot of tunes can display things like this. If you were in a forest, I don't know if you would notice it happening yourself, but yeah, it happens. And then the light bulb kind of fizzles, kind of like shorts out, and then like just kind of poofs away, and he's just like,
Oh.
he kind of just brushes his hands off, and he's like, come on. He like kind of like gestures, come follow me motion as he approaches the little gardener's uh, cottage, I would say. Like, it's not like huge, but I wouldn't call it a shack. You know?
Florence's flowers turn to um a bit of borage, and then slowly Fawn gets up and starts to follow.
As Sammy, just gonna see real quick if. Okay, so when Sammy goes to try and open the door's locked.
No.
Sammy kind of just stares at it for a moment, and he's gonna go into his hammer space, and he pulls out a bobby pin, and he's going to try and lockpick the door.
Oh boy.
Which is a D20 plus his proficiency is plus Where is your proficiency, my son? I know I have. Where is your proficiency? Getting used to Dungeon Master's Vault is interesting. Oh, proficiency bonus right there. Okay, so that's a plus 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it takes a little bit of working, but he does pick open the door and pokes his head inside and then promptly sneezes because, oh geez, there's a lot of dust in here. Ugh.
Florence kind of chuckles and like peers inside as much as the door opens. I don't know if Sammy's actually started to open the door yet.
Like, it's open, but I feel like they at first do the kind of Scooby-Doo stack.
Yeah.
Just
Florence.
like the camera pans over to the opening shot of the door, Sammy, and then Florence, and then the door fully opens.
Yeah.
And as you guys walk in, you see a lot of there's a shelf. Like, the walls are basically lined with gardening tools and like clippers and trimmers and shovels, and there's like a few bags of potting soil, and you hear Florence, since you're right next to Sammy, he's like, oh, good, I don't have to buy more for a bit. Because there's some potting soil in a bag, and on the other corner there is a little cottage, like a little cot, and on that same wall there's like a little camping stove, and it's really minimalist, but someone in the past had lived here as the groundskeeper for this park.
Florence kind of walks in slowly, looking very cautious, and Fawn's flowers turn to a little bit of mint and rhododendron, as Fawn seems a little bit anxious because Fawn actually has never been in a building before. Fawn just kind of slept in the woods, like in a tree or on the ground, like in the moss or something. Fawn's never actually been in a building before.
Just gonna see if Sammy can roll insight on that to see if he realize. No, he doesn't really realize at all. That was a 9. He just kind of blinks, and it's like, oh, pretty flowers in the back of his head, and he kind of he's a little too busy just looking at all the gardening tools because, oh, more gardening tools, shiny.
I'm gonna roll investigation maybe to see if Fawn can Fawn can scope out anything potentially dangerous, like probably some loose boards. Oh no, terrible loose boards.
Yeah, go ahead and roll investigation then.
Fawn is just very cautious. It's an 8.
The most you really pick up on is that there is just so much dust around here, and you kind of just as you're looking around, the dust kind of poofs up a bit, and you sneeze a few times, just trying to get all of the dust out of your nose. And Sammy kind of turns his head and waves his hand to get your attention, and then kind of just signs, "Bless you."
Fun chuckles again, and Fawn's flowers start to change again to, back to what's it called? Dang it, I keep forgetting the names of the flowers. There's so many.
So
There's
many flowers.
so many. Yes. um, Starts to change back to see to some borage as and a little bit of fern actually.
Mm-hmm.
And Fawn kind of tries to clear a space to sit, I guess. Like, probably there's space to sit around here.
Yeah, there's like a little like there's like a like right by the window, kind of in between where the bed and the kitchen ish area is. There's like a table like that basically just fits two people, like one on each side, and there's a chair. You sit down, and Sammy just kind of like he like he just kind of leans back, like he like kind of like stands up from where he'd been looking at some of like the clay pots underneath one of the gardening table bits, and he like just kind of like you may not be able to hear it very well, but Florence, you can see that he's kind of sighed a bit,
Um,
and his shading is like slightly blue as he's looking at this place.
Fawn looks up at Sammy a little bit confused and says, is something wrong?
Uh, Sammy kind of he blinks and then turns more fully to so that he can sign to Fawn, and is like, these places that I tend to my mom had a lot more followers than she does now. She was forgotten for a really long time, and well, I think Toontown did its best to forget her in turn because she wasn't there anymore. And uh, I'm gonna give you this little bit just for free, Florence, but you notice that Sammy's sign for mom has an interesting little tick to it because he is signing the word for mom, but there's also the added bit of the sign for deity to it as well.
Fawn, Fawn's brow furrows a little bit. And Fawn says, Our your sign, it's a bit off. Are you meaning to do that?
Sammy blinks and he kind of does the, oh right, you have to introduce some signs to other people if they don't know the sign, and his shading kind of turns to this like kind of spring green as he rubs the back of his hooded head, and his face looks a bit sheepish as it's like, ah, my mom, Prismatone, he spells her name again. She's technically not my biological mother, but she's my patron. I'm one of her clerics, but she let me call her mom because she's like a mother to me.
Fawn's flowers turn back to pansies, and Fawn slowly nods. And Fawn says, "That's that's interesting. I've heard of. I think I've heard patrons somewhere. I don't. I'm not completely familiar though. But family doesn't have to be biological. I'm pretty sure. So I'm glad you have a mother who can care for you like that.
Sammy, like, he kind of smiles and then he kind of, like, he gets a thoughtful look on his face and he's like, she doesn't usually appear during the day, but I can show you what her statue looks like.
Fawn thinks it over for a moment and then nods, smiling.
Uh,
Fawn says, "Yeah, I think I'd like that. I'd
uh,
like to see it."
Sammy grins at you, Florence, and he kind of just like he starts to head out of this little gardening cottage, and he doesn't lead you very far. It's still in this forested area, and as you're walking, you start to hear that babbling fountain again as it gets louder, and you realize that Sammy's leading you to that little clearing that you'd noticed when you first walked in. And as you enter this clearing, it's very beautifully shaded. The trees kind of grow up and around, creating this dome where there's still light. It still comes down through the trees in pretty little speckles of dotted light on the ground. And there is this black stone fountain that is in the middle of this clearing, and there are planter boxes of these the same kind of flowers that you'd seen Sammy plant outside of the forested area. And there's actually, how about you roll me a perception?
All right.
Okay.
19.
With a 19, you also notice that in some of the trees there are these very dark vines that kind of string themselves up amongst the top, and on these vines there are these beautiful roses. You think they're roses, but they're not like any kind of rose that you've seen before. They are faintly glowing with an orange, like a pinkish yellow light to them, and their edges are a brilliant glowing gold. And they kind of are all spread all across the top. They look like they just barely had gotten some much needed pruning, much needed tending to. And as you look around, there's these other flowers that like they kind of like they almost look like lilies because they are in the actual fountain, but they're not like any kind of lily that you've ever seen. Uh, they're extremely dark for one. They almost look they've been like created out of like watercolor. And as Sammy kind of he like gestures you on, your feet uh, hit cobblestone, and as the cobblestone hit, there's this little ripple of color that spreads across these petals. They're a little too indistinct. You can't make out what exact color it is, but there is a flicker of color that ripples across the surface of these water lilies. And you look at the fountain, and then you realize in the middle of the fountain there is a statue of a very large toon who has glass blown rainbow hair, and she's wearing a dress that's made out of like all black, and she's holding a spear. And Sammy kind of turns to you, Florence, and he signs, "This is Prismatone."
Fawn is amazed. It's all beautiful. Like even in Fawn's old forest, Fawn never saw anything like this before. These flowers are very sorry, I got distracted. These flowers are very strange and beautiful. Fawn's never seen anything like them before. And the statue takes Fawn's breath away. The the woman depicted in it is beautiful. Like Fawn just stares in silence.
Sammy raises his hands and he starts the sign again, and he tells Fawn about Prismatone. He explains that Prismatone is the deity of voice and character, and Florence can tell by the way Sammy is signing and how his face is so soft that he absolutely loves the deity that he calls his mom. And he his hands still for a moment, and he looks at the fountain and to Prismatone herself, and he kind of just absent-mindedly he signs, "She saved me."
Fawn's flowers have been slowly turning into roses and morning glories and some moonflower. A little bit of purple lilac too. And Fawn looks at Sammy and says, "She sounds wonderful. I wish I could meet her. She's you make her sound very lovely."
And Sammy looks at Fawn and he kind of smiles, and it's kind of this mischievous but at the same time extremely warm smile as he smiles at Fawn, and he holds up his hands and he signs, "If you wait for dark and you speak of your worries and your anything at all, she might appear. She always likes to say hello."
Fawn thinks it over for a moment and Fawn says, "I might try that. I've never talked to a statue before, though. I feel a little bit silly just thinking about it. She'll. Do you think she'll really hear me?"
Sammy holds up his hands and he says, "She talked to me when no one thought I was real. And she took the time to take me off the path I was going. And honestly, we could all use more people who are willing to talk to statues, even if they never talk back. Because that's what I did. I never expected her to talk back, but she did."
Fawn laughs and Fawn Fawn's just got this really genuine smile on Fawn's face, and Fawn's hair is full of those roses and lilac, and also some delphinium again, some olive flowers. It's just like a whole garden in Fawn's hair. um, and Fawn says, "I guess I look forward to it then. I'll have to try it. Thank you for showing me this place. I appreciate it."
You're welcome. I'm glad you came. It's nice talking to someone else who appreciates flowers.
You come here often then?
Sammy nods. There are other places that I tend to, but this is one of the places that I've found that has needed some work, but I it's hard doing it all by myself. There's the place by the theater, another park. Gil says that there's another theater that I probably will need to see. And when he signs Gil's name, he quickly fingerspells it, but then he signs the letter G and then kind of like he makes the tune sign for G and then kind of like bounces it like there's two horns.
Fun, it's hard to think right now. It's cute. uh, Fawn nods and says, well, if you take me along, I guess I'd like to explore some of the city with you. If I'm going to be staying here, I guess I might want to get to know it, though. I'm a little nervous about going into the busier parts again.
Sammy's shading brightens and his shading is like a bright yellow and he grins widely at you. And his teeth are very sharp. And but like, he doesn't look intimidating. He just looks extremely happy as he looks at Fawn and he's just like, I would love for you to come along. I can show you a lot of the quieter spaces, so if you get overwhelmed again, you can easily find them.
I think I'd like that. I think I'd like that a lot, actually. And then Fawn thinks for a moment and says, just a moment, and I'm gonna roll hammer space. I forget, it's a D10, right? I haven't rolled
It's a
hammer space in forever.
It's a D10, yeah.
Okay. I got an 8. I think that's a success.
Yep, that's a
So,
success. Everything but a
Fawn,
1 is a success.
yeah. Fawn reaches up behind Fawn's head and then pulls out a few blue periwinkles and says, here, these are for you. And don't worry if you don't really have space for them. They won't wilt, I promise.
Sammy takes these periwinkles and just there's like an excited sparkle around his head as he's like holding these flowers and looking at them, and just his eyes are like they're shining like they've got little golden stars in them, and he's just like inside just like very excited, screaming because flowers, really pretty flowers. And he's gonna roll hammer space and he pulls out a little potted rainbow flower and he hands it to you, Florence, and he's like, you're gonna he hands it to you and then signs, you're gonna have to water this, but they tend to like shade, so they can pretty much go anywhere if you really want to have it. He like starts kind of like his hands kind of start stuttering as he's just kind of like exchange of flowers, friendship. He's he just flail. There's a bit of flailing in his hand signs as he's awkward.
Fawn laughs, and a few of those blue periwinkles start to show up in Fawn's hair, and Fawn says, I love it, thank you. I'll put it in my little cabin or
Yeah, I think cabin works. It's in a forest.
uh Fawn nods and says cabin then. Thank you.
And
It's
Sammy just beams at Fawn.
Fawn says it's been amazing to meet you. I've never met someone like me before.
Sammy's face, his expression softens, and he just. Being alone can be hard, but. You have me now. And I can try and make sure that your stay in Toontown isn't as overwhelming as you first found it.
Thank you. I I'm really glad that I came here after all.
I'm glad you did, because it's wonderful to be a new friend.
And I'm not really sure where to take it from there.
Honestly, like, it seems like we could end it there where they just.
Yeah.
They're vibing in this park, garden, forested
Yeah.
area. They're
And
friends, Your
Fawn's
Honor.
got a new home. Yeah, they're friends.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you had as much fun as we did.
It was a very chill, just kind of soft FPS.
Yes, it was very needed. And now we're going to say goodbye to our listeners. Goodbye, listeners!
Goodbye!